If you're like me, you're not particularly interested in your windows looking like this. It's messy, it's crowded, it's hard to manage. This is why I use tiling window managers, and ultimately why within the first couple days of setting up Ubuntu in August, I moved away from the default GNOME desktop environment and ultimately started using i3 Window Manager in a separate Xorg environment. Today, I'm kind of revisiting my initial solution to that problem. I'm coming back and I'm going to try and meet GNOME halfway. I've been playing around with Pop Shell and the Pop Launcher to kind of augment the base capabilities of the GNOME desktop that ships with Ubuntu. And I just kind of want to talk about those things today because they're breathing new life into GNOME for me. This is a bit of a different format of video than I usually do. Going to be actually just kind of doing everything live here today. So forgive me if this takes a little bit of getting used. But ultimately all that you're going to do with Pop Shell is we're going to turn on our tiling windows. And man, look at that. With the tiling windows on instantly, I hope that you can kind of see the benefit here. We still have our Nautilus file browser from GNOME. We still have Google Chrome. We still have our terminal. Everything still works, but now it's tiled. And we've got, you know, our active window indication and everything is still there. And yeah, so that's honestly kind of Pop Shell in a nutshell, but I kind of want to talk about it just a little bit more because it's a cool project. You can find Pop Shell on GitHub. It's made by the guys who are making Pop OS, which is System 76. Pop OS is actually an Ubuntu based distro. I don't have a lot of experience with it. My same friend who put me onto Void put me onto Pop OS back in the day. I haven't personally used it, but I did use the Cosmic desktop environment when it was in alpha back in the day. I was using Asahi on my M1 MacBook Pro, the Fedora remix. This was before I started branching out, trying different distros, and Cosmic was great on there. Cosmic now has full integration of Pop Shell and the Pop Launcher, but today we're just going to be talking about using the Pop Shell and the launcher on Ubuntu. And so a lot of the other distributions that you're going to see mentioned here by name are going to have instructions for how to install from your package repositories. Just a heads up now, I don't know why, but apt does not have it, and therefore you're going to have to build from source if you are on Ubuntu. That's not a big problem. They make this really easy. If we go here, we can see that based on your GNOME version, you're just going to pick your branch, and then you just do a make local install, and that was all I had to do. You clone the repository, you do the make, you build it, and you're good to go. Additional note that I will say on Ubuntu, I also had to go into a separate repository for the Pop Launcher and build that as well, and that is a separate build system. Pop Launcher is written in Rust, and so you just need cargo. You also need just. It uses a just file for its build system. It's really simple, but it is a different tool set, so keep that in mind. It might work for you out of the box. It seems to me like everything's supposed to work because it does install Pop Launcher as far as I can tell, but what was happening for me is the keybind was working, the launcher was coming up, and none of the apps or any of the tools or widgets were there. And so once I did the build for the launcher itself on top of the Pop Shell, everything worked, and that was good. And so when I keep talking about Pop Launcher, I'm talking about this. So this kind of menu bar on my i3 setup, I was using Rofi for this. If you're on Wayland, you might be using, I think it's called Wofi. You might be using D menu. Again, on Wayland, you might be using B menu. These are all pretty powerful. I don't think it matters too much that this one's written in Rust. I think it's like Rust and TypeScript or something like that. It works pretty well. I like the use of the control and the number keys for kind of the quick navigation between your open windows. And then obviously you can also open, applications this way. And I think that all works pretty good. I think it just looks for your app images, and it might also look for other things. I try not to use snaps. I don't have a lot of Flatpaks installed, so I can't vouch for those, but it is extensible and customizable. So that is a benefit as well. And so that's kind of just the main package here for kind of enhancing the base functionality of the GNOME desktop. I have my shortcuts for things like my shell, and so I can use that very easily. And here I'm actually using the GNOME terminal. I didn't want to change my config for Ghosty in this environment because then I'd go back into i3 and everything would look different. Since I'm using the light theme and generally things are monochrome, I kind of wanted to keep it separate. So that's kind of my reasoning there. Really nothing else beyond that. Yeah, the keybinds are familiar. I believe it uses the kind of default GNOME workspaces, so you can still move between these, and they're very configurable. You can do so from the settings, I believe. I might be wrong there. Maybe it's under multitasking. I'm not sure. So yeah, here we go. So you can kind of customize your workspaces and their behaviors as you normally would through your GNOME settings, and then PopShell just kind of adds the tiling behavior on top of that for the most part. Some of the keybinds overlap. I spent a little while kind of getting things how I wanted them, changing it to feel a little more like i3. Still not fully there, but generally speaking, it's close enough. A mod Q is to close my windows, and then I have the shortcut, which is Alt and Enter for my terminal. Couldn't use the mod key for that because there is something else bound to it. Like right now, it doesn't do anything, but it also didn't do anything when I tried to do it for the terminal shortcut. So I just kind of left that alone, and it's fine. I have a kind of similar issue on Aerospace on my Mac anyway, so I'm kind of familiar to having to alternate between using those two keys. I don't think it's that uncommon of a thing. So that's really all that I did there, was installing PopShell as far as getting these behaviors and kind of the additional functionality out of GNOME. I then went ahead and installed the Graphite GTK theme. I wanted to go for something kind of different from what I'm used to doing, and so I liked the kind of bold outlines that this introduces and the kind of monochrome feel. Generally, I'm a user of dark modes. The PinePhone video that I put out while working on that and getting Void set up on there, I actually started using light mode in the form of solarized light on that device. And from there, I actually have kind of started to see the vision, and I'm starting to try and experiment with light mode on my desktop now. And so that's kind of the motivation there. This one's really simple. You just clone the repository, run the install script. These are the icons that I'm using as well, the same ones that they link here. That's pretty nice. And again, that's pretty much kind of the only additional customizations I've done here. I have some other things installed. If we open up extensions, I can kind of look specifically here. I was trying to mess around with OpenBar, and I honestly couldn't find something that I was like stoked with, to be really honest with you. I think it looks nice and it has a lot of features. I just haven't, had the interest to kind of sit down and configure it how I want it. Once I can get it looking like the light mode, I think I will probably mess around with it. I like that you can do the islands or like the segmented bar style. And so that's pretty cool. I guess the other thing that I'm using here is Rounded Window Corners Reborn. The Rounded Window Corners original one is archived, and so these guys have just picked it up and continued maintaining it for more modern versions of GNOME. And I don't know, I just like it. The rounded corners are something that I don't, think that they're like a must or anything like that, but I like the way that they look. Generally speaking, I think that we're kind of moving into a direction with interface design where things are getting more abstract and characters and interfaces are starting to look softer. And so I don't know, I've just kind of started to expect that from my interfaces, and I don't know, I can't really elaborate further than that. So yeah, that's been a kind of quick look into what I've been doing for the last couple of days on my desktop, experimenting with PopShell and customizing GNOME. It's been a great time. I'm honestly really enjoying this. My interest here was to get back a lot of the kind of comfort features that GNOME gives you, a lot of the GUI. It's kind of nice to have it if you're feeling kind of lazy. I mean, honestly, just having some of these integrations, it's kind of silly, but the things like OBS and Steam, they're just kind of nice to have. Yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying this setup. I think I'll definitely continue experimenting with it. I don't think that it has me fully convinced yet. I don't see myself fully migrating from i3 back to the GNOME desktop yet, but maybe it will happen sometime in the future as this kind of config evolves. Sometime soon in the future, I would also like to look at the Regolith desktop environment. It kind of tries to achieve a similar thing that I feel like the PopShell does, but it does it in a different way. It does that by integrating GNOME into i3 through the use of, I forget what the project is called, but either or, that'll be another video sometime soon. Hope that you guys like the kind of shorter format, kind of more informal, just kind of sitting down and talking about tech. I'm gonna have a Godot video later on this week, probably on Friday when I normally upload, so I'm shooting for 2 videos this week. If you liked anything that you saw today, consider leaving a like, and if you're new and you like my kind of content, kind of vibe that we have going on around here, consider dropping a sub if that interests you at all. And I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your days. I will see you next time.